So far throughout this series, the world has slowly burned in the fires of war, conspiracy, and suffering. A world without these is an idea that none can imagine, and death is an accepted part of everyday life. It is incredible to see how far the world has fallen since the start of this tale all the way back in the mid-2020s. At that time, humanity eagerly awaited the arrival of the new developments in human evolution. But since then, all humanity has known is death and decay. With the collapse of the civilized world, in an event known as the Great Collapse, the world was freed from the control of secret factions, but now it faced the arduous task of rebuilding society. Now the year is 2072, and the reconstruction of the world is moving along swiftly. Many areas around the world remain poor and destitute, but many others are now enjoying a life of prosperity and peace. Finally, it appears that there is hope at the end of the tunnel. And this flicker of hope will be quickly extinguished in the advent of a new threat. A war is about to commence, and once again, like all times before, this war will be fought between secret and rival factions that have been hiding in the background, waiting for the right moment to strike. The world is almost rebuilt, and now the time has come to reconquer it. (2072) Chicago, Apostle Corps-run Tarsus facility. For years now, Alex D and Billy Adams have been raised and trained in all manners of intellect, combat and warfare, as well as politics and physical training. Though as it stands, they have not received their biomod infusions as of yet. However, the time for this is approaching, and unbeknown to the two trainees, Apostle Corps waits anxiously for the results of this test. If successful, then the creation of the Denton key may well have been achieved, and thus, the world utopian visions shown by JC Denton in the previous decades could well become a reality within a short period of time. Little does anyone know, but the world is about to face yet another human revolution. Well, almost anyway. Soon before the infusions are to take place, a mysterious figure arrives in the downtown area of Chicago. Immediately flagged up as a likely terrorist threat, local SSC and Apostle Corps forces try to remove the problem as soon as possible. But it is too late. Pulling a nanite detonator from his pocket, the terrorist activates the device, and in the seconds that follow, the entire city is engulfed in a blaze, a fire where no one and nothing survives. But all is not lost. Believing that the likelihood of an attack on Apostle Corps was right around the corner, Dr. Layla Nassif and Project Director Stan Carnegie enforce high levels of security practices within the facility, and would eventually order the complete evacuation of the Tarsus facility as soon as the terrorist was flagged up. Though only a handful of people managed to escape the blast, Alex D, Billy Adams, Layla and Stan managed to get out and flee to the nearest Apostle Corps facility, that being the Seattle branch. Though being out of harm's way, it soon becomes clear to Alex that something isn't right with this Seattle branch, and that there may be some sort of emergency taking place. Though these concerns are shrugged off by Layla Nassif, Alex D and Billy Adams are able to meet their two fellow trainees, Clara Sparks, a naive but intelligent girl, and Leo Jankowski, a brash and overconfident character. It is here at this point in time that Alex's concerns about the Seattle facility are confirmed. In a sudden move, the Seattle Tarsus branch comes under attack from members of the Order Church. Orchestrated by Her Holiness's second-in-command, High Augur Chen, and led by the overzealous Captain Lamar, the Order stages a brutal assault on the already damaged organisation of Tarsus. During this attack, many people are killed on both sides, and the four trainees are once more forced to flee the scene. Now finding himself separated from the other trainees, Alex D is contacted by Billy Adams, who managed to escape the attack. Billy informs Alex that she had actually defected over to the Order Church, and advises Alex to come meet her in Lower Seattle. Despite this offering, Alex is also informed to seek out a woman called Donna Morgan, a high-ranking security chief within the WTO. Whilst visiting both factions, it becomes clear that both sides wish to recruit Alex to their cause and help with the now openly developing situation. During his time in Seattle, Alex learns that Captain Lamar of the Order Church, the captain who led the attack on Tarsus, disobeyed orders that no one was to be harmed during the operation, an eventuality that clearly did not happen. Not only that, but the captain himself had actually defected to the Knights Templar, who are now on the rise. Whilst also being employed by the WTO, Alex is sent out to gather incriminating intelligence on a local minister, but also stumbles upon a lead of Apostle Corps' own Layla Nassif's whereabouts in the process. However, it soon becomes clear to Alex that he cannot follow both paths, as both factions constantly give him conflicting tasks. For example, after reporting his findings to both factions, Alex is instructed to go to a weapons manufacturing complex called Mako Ballistics in search of Nassif. However, it also becomes apparent that the same company has been contracted by the Knights Templar to develop a weapon that could give them an edge in a firefight should a war take place. But whilst Donna Morgan of the WTO orders Alex to recover the schematics of this weapon so that they could utilise it, Hyoga Cheng counters this order by instructing Alex to kill the weapon's head of development, as both a warning and a means to stop its production. Despite successfully infiltrating the facility, Alex fails to find Nassif, and instead comes across one of the Tarsus project directors, Stan Carnegie, who informs that Layla isn't present. All is not lost for Alex, however, as he soon discovers a message left for Stan by Layla, informing him that she has relocated to the Tarsus Academy in Cairo, and once again, Alex takes to the skies in pursuit of Nassif. Now finding himself in Cairo, Alex sees the effects of the Great Collapse up close. Despite already seeing the rough part of town back in Seattle, and being raised on the streets of old Chicago, Alex witnesses firsthand the poverty that is present in the Cairo Medina. Gripped in the midst of a nanite-based virus, similar to that of the Grey Death, the people of the city have become desperate, and many have turned to crime in order to survive. Because of the situation, however, the Order has managed to thrive in this area, but unfortunately, so have the Knights Templar as well as a Nomar presence. After being contacted by Billy Adams, now in Cairo also in pursuit of Nassif, Alex rendezvous with her at the Cairo Order Church at the local mosque. It is here that Alex first meets the head of Trier's Order branch and the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, Lumen and Saman. Although Saman has managed to keep his true identity as the Templar figurehead a secret, and posing as an inside agent of the Order Church, Saman informs Alex that many members of the Order Church are not happy with the latest teachings of Her Holiness. Believing that she is advocating the pursuit of economic-driven goals, and her laid-back views towards biomodification, of which she was originally opposed to, many Order members worldwide are starting to listen to what Saman has to say with regards to this situation. Though claiming he never intended it to happen, Saman has actually managed to gain the ear of many followers, and now has his own flock of followers, including Billy Adams. Saman also tries to recruit Alex to his cause, but ultimately fails. It is not long after this that Templar attacks and operations begin to pop up all over the city, including raids against Amar traders and an upcoming all-out siege against the Cairo Apostle Corps facility, all of which being orchestrated by Saman, giving him a reason to be in Cairo rather than Trier. Knowing that information on Nassif's whereabouts might be found within the local Tarsus Academy, Alex decides to infiltrate the building, posing as one of the students' parents. Although a Templar attack on Cairo's Tarsus never occurs, Alex is appalled to find the Academy in its present condition. Living in a constant state of fear, with the entire facility being run like a police state, the headmaster, Silas Archer, has succeeded in making the children's lives a living hell. Being a high-ranking member of the Knights Templar, Archer has taken control of the facility and filled it with Templar sympathizers from the SSC. Planning on sabotaging the Tarsus program by eliminating the Academy's best students, the Knights Templar begin to descend on the area. Thankfully, some of the targeted children get wind of this operation and go into hiding before Archer can execute his plan. Realizing this, Alex quickly deals with Archer, putting his reign of terror to an end. Though this situation has been dealt with, Alex was still unable to locate Dr. Nassif. However, whilst turning up incriminating evidence on Archer, Alex does learn where she might be. Although Alex had already heard about a company called Apostle Corps, he did not know quite how relevant this organisation was to his journey. Now, however, they might just provide the answers to his questions. It becomes apparent that the Knights Templar are putting a large plan into motion, with many sites located around the new Cairo area being targeted. Entering the Apostle Corps facility in the Cairo archaeology, Alex finds the site under attack from the Templars. During this assault, many members of staff, scientists, and security officers alike are killed. Meeting up with his former fellow trainee, Clara Sparks, who has since joined the WTO, Clara reminds Alex to follow WTO orders in securing and interrogating Layla Nassif about her work on the new Biomod project and her tests on Alex and the other trainees. However, once again in a conflicting move, Hyoga Chen challenges this by ordering Alex to assassinate Nassif. Nassif's fate is not clear, but what we do know is that Alex managed to make contact with the Egyptian scientist at long last. It is here that Alex manages to finally pierce the veil of what is really happening. Nassif reveals to Alex the true purpose of his existence, in that he is really the third Denton project, originally created by Majestic 12 before the collapse, and that he is just another clone of JC. However, just before Area 51's destruction, Alex, at the time only being 5 years old, was pulled out and sent to Chicago, where he would live most of his life before the city was destroyed. However, once established, Apostle Corps knew of Alex's existence, and that he would be a valuable asset in the completion of their goals, hence why he was given the offer of joining the Tarsus program. Now with the Cairo branch of Apostle Corps damaged beyond repair, the only remaining branch was in Trier, Germany, ironically the same place where the Knights Templar had resprung up. Although Alex was able to get some information out of Nassif, she wasn't able to answer every question. For example, she knew about the Dentons being involved in what Apostle Corps was working on. However, at this point, she had never met either of them. In fact, she was unaware that Apostle Corps was even founded by them, and that it was JC's idea of a utopian world that their work is based on, though she is aware of the idea itself. On an interesting note though, Nassif was aware that a cryopod of some description was removed from the facility by the Knights Templar shortly before Alex's arrival, though she is unsure of whether this is of importance or not. However, there was one person Nassif was able to point to, that being one of Apostle Corps' highest ranking members and head of their remaining facility, a man called Tracer Tong. Before Alex leaves the facility, Nassif tells him that if he wants to see Apostle Corps' goals become a reality, then he should make contact with Tong, being that Tong is both the head of operations for the corporation, and that he is the only person who can contact JC Denton. With all of this information in hand, Alex leaves Cairo, whilst Nassif's fate remains a mystery. Now arriving in Trier, Alex makes quick work in finding Tong's location. In the back room of a local tavern, Tong informs Alex that if he wishes to find JC Denton and help Apostle Corps, then he must first locate the last Apostle Corps facility and enter what is referred to as the Black Gate. The Black Gate is a teleportation device that will transport the user to JC's location of hiding. However, there's a catch. Only someone belonging to the Denton bloodline can use the facility, limiting the number of people who can use it, but securing JC from those who'd wish to see him destroyed. Unfortunately for Apostle Corps, this security feature has already been sidestepped by the Knights Templar. It would appear that someone of the Denton bloodline has already managed to make their way through the portal to JC's sanctuary, and now time is of the essence. But whilst Tong is unsure of who this might be, Alex does have a suspect. Perhaps someone who had been a part of the same program that he grew up in, and who had originally sided with the Order Church? The only people who could use it would be both Denton's, Alex, and possibly the other trainees from the Tarsus program. To this realization, Alex leaves for the facility. However, getting there is not as easy as Alex first thought. The fact of the matter remains that Trier is in the middle of a political upheaval. As the now militant branch of the Order Church continues to stage protests, that being Lumen and Saman's chapter, several areas of Trier's industrial sector begin to get disillusioned. None more so than the world's leading robotics firm, Panzerwerks. What started out as a series of peaceful protests on the Order's behalf would eventually escalate into acts of violence, including the theft and damage of Panzerwerks property. As these acts continue, members of the firm begin to fight back, with many members going on strike, and a bitter standoff occurs between the two factions. In an attempt to calm this down, both figureheads of the world's leading governing bodies, Chairman Dumier of the WTO and Her Holiness of the Order Church, decide to hold a summit as a means of establishing the groundworks for peaceful cooperation of both factions. And although this is what the summit looked like on the outside, the true nature of the summit looks completely different on the inside. In reality, the WTO and Order Summit was nothing more than an excuse for the Illuminati to operate out in the open as they search for a possible splinter cell within Trier's Order chapter. But while some would see the summit as progressive thinking, and being a step forward for the whole globe, many believe this to be an act of transgression against what both sides stand for. Especially for the members of the Order Church, who believed that Her Holiness was about to sell out her beliefs, and the beliefs of the Church as a whole. Even the Knights Templar, who were actually firm followers of the original doctrines laid down by Her Holiness after the collapse, believed that she was going too far. In fact, they were so opposed to this summit taking place that they, once more, resorted to drastic action. Soon before the summit was about to take place, members of the Knights Templar broke into the SSC headquarters for Trier and kidnapped Her Holiness along with Chief Morgan of the WTO. In response to this, WTO officials arrest Lumen and Saman on suspicion of kidnapping her and holding him for interrogation, though Saman was eventually released due to insufficient evidence. Now running out of options, Chad Dumier, the chairman of the WTO, decides to recruit Alex as his main operative in the Trier area. He orders Alex to locate and rescue Her Holiness before anything happens to her, and as a result of information coming in on another Templar attack on the local Apostle Corps facility, Dumier believes that this is where Her Holiness is being held. Finding that the Apostle Corps facility is once more overrun with members of the Templar Order, Alex manages to locate the controls for the Black Gate. But before powering up the facility, he also discovers Her Holiness and Donna Morgan being held as hostages as well. After freeing them both, Her Holiness reveals to Alex her real identity as Nicolette Duclair, as well as the existence of the Illuminati. She explains the Illuminati's plans for the world to Alex in that the Illuminati will guide humanity into a new golden age under their observation. She also warns Alex of Apostle Corps, who she brands as a company that wants to force biomodification upon every living human, so that JC Denton could permanently spy and observe on the world's population, something of which Nicolette describes as unethical. Returning to the SSC headquarters with Her Holiness, both leaders of the Illuminati explain what is at stake and that Alex should go to JC Sanctuary in order to gain access to him. In a surprising turn of events, the Illuminati leaders inform Alex that they do not wish to see JC Denton killed. Despite both of them helping him out against Majestic 12 20 years earlier, JC Denton had become a threat to the newly revitalised Illuminati, and it made sense that they would want him dead. However, this was not their wish. In fact, the Illuminati saw JC Denton as a potential tool for power should they manage to control him. As he still has the Helios AI, and due to the fact that the Illuminati are not in the habit of wasting valuable technology if it can be helped, they plan to control JC Denton in order to further their plans. Now Alex is ready to travel to JC Sanctuary, but there's a problem. Tong informs Alex that he will need the correct activation module in order to fire up the portal. a module that is currently residing at the local Templar headquarters in a cathedral in the Raustadt area. Once there, Alex manages to gain the relevant information, but is confronted by Lumen and Saman, who now openly parades his Templar allegiance in front of Alex. It is here that Saman informs Alex that Billy Adams has indeed defected over to the Knights Templar and has already made her way through the Black Gate with the intentions of eliminating JC Denton. With little time on his hands, Alex returns to the portal at the Black Gate facility with the acquired activation module, and after activating the device, Alex steps through the gateway. Now finding himself at the heart of Antarctica, Alex realises that Tong was telling the truth. In fact, the Templars have already begun deploying troops in the area in an attempt to locate JC. Now finding himself outside of a large magnificent structure, Alex learns that he has finally located the hideout that JC Denton has resided in since the collapse. However, due to the improper merger with the Helios AI, JC has slipped into a deep coma. Alex is able to revive JC, however, by partially integrating his cellular structure with JC's through the use of the Helios processing module. It is here that Alex is able to glimpse upon key events that occurred during JC's encounter with Majestic 12 over 20 years earlier. But before the process can be completed, Alex is interrupted by Billy Adams. Knowing that if JC is revived, then this could spell out disaster for the Templars, Billy tries to convince Alex to walk away, but Alex refuses to accept. Hearing this, Billy realises that she has no choice but to attack him, and the two enter into a bitter struggle. It is unclear as to what happens next, but what we do know is that Alex emerges as the victor from this fight, whilst what happens to Billy Adams will remain a mystery. With the process completed, JC Denton wakes up. Welcoming Alex as his brother, JC Denton reveals his plans for the world to Alex, informing him about his visions for the perfect democracy and welcoming Alex as its first citizen. Though Alex is skeptical about what JC has to say, he hears him out, finding out about what JC's post-human civilization will look like. After JC had answered all of Alex's questions, he warns him that Paul Denton's life is in danger. See, it was in fact Paul who was captured during the Templar raid on the Apostle Corps facility in New Cairo, and now he is in danger of assassination. And with this, Alex makes his way to a nearby abandoned VersaLife base and makes arrangements to leave once more for New Cairo, Egypt. But JC is not the only one with plans for Paul. Over the course of the next few hours, as Alex makes arrangements to leave Antarctica for Cairo, he is contacted by both Chad Daumier and Saman individually. Knowing that Paul Denton's return could well be detrimental to the Illuminati's goals, Daumier orders Alex to turn off Paul's life support systems, thus killing him. But Chad is well aware that the simple act of ordering Alex to do this might not be enough to actually get him to carry out this tall order. Chad needs to put some pressure on Alex. He needs to give Alex a reason to carry out this tall order, and Chad has a good enough reason lined up. Since the Templar raid on the Cairo Apostle Corps facility, Clara Sparks has started to become disillusioned with the WTO, especially with regards to their new opinions towards the Order Church, something of which Chad picked up on straight away. Now suspecting where her loyalties lie, Chad orders Clara to be captured. Now as his hostage, Chad informs Alex that if he does not terminate Paul Denton, then he will in turn terminate Clara. Not ready to be bossed around in this manner, Alex wastes no time in dealing with this problem, freeing Clara from the WTO grip upon arrival at his next destination. On the other hand, Saman orders Alex to leave Paul Denton where he is, as the Templars intend to perform experiments on him in order to learn more about how to destroy biomodification. But Alex's business in New Cairo does not end there. During this time, Alex also comes into contact once more with his fellow trainee, Leo Jankowski. Since Jankowski had sided with the Omar after the Seattle Tarsus raid, his fortune had grown, but now it looked like his luck was about to run out. Leo informs Alex that the Omar want him to finish his induction and become one of them, a fully operational Omar, a mindless robot, a part of a collective consciousness that will ultimately render the individual that is Leo as non-existent. During their conversation, Alex infuriates Leo, telling him that he has become pathetic and is constantly living in fear. Hearing these words, Jankowski flies into a fit of rage, and challenging Alex's words, he successfully dispatches his Omar employers, abandoning their organisation. With no allies left, Leo decides to support Alex in his upcoming final showdown with the world's superpowers, and agrees to meet Alex at his next destination. Finally, with all other forms of business taken care of, Alex travels to JC Denton's base of operations, the old headquarters of JC's former employer, the UNATCO base on Liberty Island, New York. Upon arrival, Alex notices that the entire island has frozen over as a result of JC's universal conduit. By using the old technology salvaged from the ruins of Area 51, JC and Helios have managed to build an impressive device out of the ruins of the Statue of Liberty that will allow the new biomolecular strain that Apostle Corps have developed in Alex to be distributed to every man, woman and child around the world. All that is required of Alex is to infiltrate the UNATCO headquarters, gain access to the salvaged Aquinas Protocol, and transfer ownership to Apostle Corps. Once completed, all Alex would have to do is simply merge with the processing module, much in the same way that JC Denton did with the Helios AI back at Area 51 20 years earlier. The result of this would be exactly as JC Denton had planned. Every human on the planet would be linked into a collective consciousness with everyone else. This would mean that every individual's needs and desires could be carried out and satisfied under the observation of the Helios AI. As JC Denton had rightly quoted,
"General ideas are no proof of the strength, but rather of the insufficiency of the human intellect."
As quoted from Alexis de Tocqueville. Though this seems like a drastic course of action, humanity itself would not be changed. Rather, this allows for the average human to be put on the same level as everyone else, eliminating all forms of inequality and allowing the Helios AI to cater for each individual based on their own needs. But as expected, the otherworld powers would not simply sit by and wait for this to occur. The Illuminati would give Alex a different order. First, to assassinate JC Denton once and for all. Though previously wishing to control JC, as he could be a very powerful tool in the right hands, now that fate has taken a different course, the Illuminati have deemed JC Denton too dangerous to be allowed to live, and so the order to have him assassinated is passed on to Alex. Should he carry out this order, the Illuminati would then go on to send Alex into the UNATCO headquarters and give full ownership of the Aquinas Protocol to their advanced space station called Ophelia, which they would then use to usher in an age of scientific intellect and spiritual enlightenment known as the Age of Light. But Grandmaster Saman would not have it this way either. With the end goal of a world without biomodification twinkling in his eyes, he urges Alex once more to side with the Templars. Once more, Saman instructs Alex to assassinate JC Denton and then upload the Aquinas Protocol to his scientists in Munich. This would ultimately put the Knights Templar in control of the world, and it goes without saying that a worldwide manhunt for all of those infected with biomodification would be implemented. But despite all of these factions fighting over Alex, another option does become available to him. Now arriving on the island, Leo Jankowski contacts Alex and asks to meet with him. It is here that Leo expresses his concern about the world leaders. Convinced that none of them are worthy of ruling the world, Leo offers Alex the option of siding with no one, and instead, eliminating the figureheads of each faction, including Grandmaster Saman, Chad Dumier, Nicolette Duclair, Tracer Tong, and JC Denton. But without a leader, the world could well spiral out of control. Should Alex choose this option, the world as we know it might end. Without anyone to guide humanity, the human race would ultimately tear itself apart over the next few centuries, until life as we know it would cease to exist. The only traces of life that would remain would be the Omar, who would be suited to survive such an eventuality. But none of this has yet come to pass. This story, and the journey that we have travelled during this series, has not yet happened. There is still time. The year is 2015, and the future of the world is still in your hands. The technology presented to us in Deus Ex Human Revolution is currently in development as you watch this, and we could well see mechanical augmentations out in the open in the next few decades, with some primitive forms of augmentation already existing today. And, although the future is uncertain, one thing is clear.
It is up to you how it's shaped, and you alone hold the hopes of the world in your hands. Thank you for watching.
Hey everyone, True Review here. You've just finished watching my Deus Ex Lore series, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. It has taken me just over a year of solid work to make it, and countless late nights trying to make it perfect. Although this series has ended, that does not mean that I won't carry on making Deus Ex Lore videos. I'm aware that a new title is in development, and I have every intention of making a new lore video when it comes out. I'd like to give a big thank you to you at home for watching these videos and the support you've shown. Please feel free to let me know what you thought about them, or if you want to clarify a particular piece of lore, then leave me a message and I'll get right back to you on it. I probably won't be making another lore series in favour of trying out other things, but you never know what the future holds. But stay tuned for new videos on the way. See you soon.